Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. My name is Cindy. Thank you so very much for being here. I really do appreciate all of my viewers and subscribers. The comments are brilliant, and I really appreciate all of it. Quickly, I just want to mention that if you are looking for a private reading, in the information box below is an email address. It is soulprint888@gmail.com. Simply fire me off a little email looking for reading information, and I will send you back the information you need. I currently am booking the week of August 8th and the following week of that. So availability is really good right now, so there's not a lot of wait time. So if that's something you're interested in, send me an email. Today, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to take an overview, kind of two countries, Canada and the States. And, it's just such a pivotal time we're in right now. There just seems to be this sort of real struggle going on between two very, very different philosophies or concepts of, what we want our country to look like, countries. And so I thought this would be a really good time to take just a bit of a broader view, a 30,000, foot view of where we're at and where we're going and what the energies and directions look like. I'm going to start with Canada because, Canadian and all. I will tell you, just as I was prepping to do this, I was thinking about the leadership races. That are going on in both the United Progressive Conservative Party here in Alberta, because Kenny was sort of voted out with a non-confidence vote, and the federal Conservative Party, because O'Toole did not win the last election, and so now they're looking for another leader. And as of right now, first of all, understand, apparently this leadership convention for the Conservatives, I think it's sometimes in October. And right now, Pierre, however you pronounce his last name, is in the sort of leadership position. And I'm embarrassed to say that by and large, he's being really supported by Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. So the prairie provinces really love him, which, anyways, I'm not going there. So he's like really conservative, like this is like the Trump wannabes that seem to be getting some traction. And I was cognizant of the fact that there's no way the Liberals are going to win again, because we don't do that. He's had 2 terms. It's really likely that we're likely to switch parties federally come the next election. And I got this really clear message saying it doesn't matter who wins that leadership race now. It's not going to matter. So I don't know if Pierre is going to win it. I suspect yes, given current energies. But for whatever reason, Spirit wanted me to know that it's just not going to matter. So I don't know what that looks like. I don't know. I don't know. And, I could speculate, but I'm not gonna. And let's not forget, like, the next election is like in 2025, right? It's 2.5 years away, for goodness sakes. So a lot can happen, a lot can shift and change. But that was an interesting sort of insight that I got there. So for those of you who are freaking about this Pierre guy, take a deep breath, step back. And I'm not getting a yes, he's going to win it, or no, he's not, but I'm definitely getting a whoever wins it, it's not going to matter. Okay. And as for the Alberta one, so Danielle Smith is in the lead right now. And she, again, super conservative, really, really pro-life. Listen, the abortion situation in Canada is long settled. But that's kind of one of those that stir up the flames, right? That's got all the real traditionalists just upset and angry. She wants to introduce a Alberta Sovereignty Act that despite the fact it's completely illegal, okay, but basically says, you know what, we'll reap whatever benefits Ottawa got to give us, but if we don't like something, if we don't agree with them, we just don't have to follow them because we have this Sovereignty Act. This is not going to fly. And I think what's going to happen with her, I'm getting a very clear, it will be um, the second place candidate that's ultimately going to get that leadership position. So this is one of those situations where, you rank all of the people in the running from first choice to last. Um, in the UCP, you have to get a majority, not like whoever gets the most um, votes, which could only represent 30 or 35%, right? It's you have to get a majority of votes. So if that doesn't happen on the first ballot, which is not likely, the person with the lowest number of votes gets removed, and then their second choice votes get tabulated and calculated. And it's really a complicated system. But again, even there, I'm getting a sort of a clarity in terms of it'll be whoever is the second choice. And so for right now, and I think she's also the one who wants to bring in a provincial sales tax. Like, are you kidding? Not in Alberta. We don't do provincial sales taxes here. We never have. And the fact that, so before COVID, etc., Alberta was really had a significant deficit because of COVID, and then by extension, the war in Ukraine and oil revenues. Alberta has bounced back up into a surplus economy, and so this is a really horrendous time to suggest to Albertans that we need a sales tax. Part of the reason that we've never had a sales tax is because we're kind of like the oil capital of Canada. And that means that our coffers have always been comfortably full. Sorry, excuse me. So that's where we're at right now. So I want to take a look at Canada overview, and then I'm going to take a look at the United States overview. I suspect that the readings are going to be similar in tone because both countries are struggling with sort of the same issues, right? There is that real conservative grouping of people who want, they don't actually want to be part of a country, right? They want to sort of fly by their own rules and take from the country what benefits them, but not adhere to, the rules and regulations that make us a country. And this applies to any country on the planet. All right, so come on down, because I have a question. Okay, here we go. Current trajectory Canada, current trajectory Canada, current trajectory Canada. Okay. So you're going to be seeing this on August 2nd, but I'm recording this on August 1st, which is a civic holiday across Canada. It's just recently been been implemented, known as Emancipation Day. This is to acknowledge our role in the slaveries. We just had the Pope here apologizing for the heinous evil that went on at the residential schools. He used the word genocide, although only when he was on his way back. He was questioned and he agreed that the word genocide was appropriate. There is so much healing to be done, frankly, in both areas. But first steps are first steps, and you have to acknowledge the healing that is connected to that. So these cards are telling kind of an interesting beginning story. What they're talking about is that Canada is going to continue to move forward on the healing journey it is on. Listen, there's still a lot that needs to be sorted out. There's a lot of apologies, frankly, that need to be made. There's a lot of open communication that has to happen. There's a lot of sharing of ideas, healing work, and healing words. But ultimately, we're relatively well positioned as a country to move forward, because even though you have these elements of I'm not even quite sure what to call it. If we were, ultra conservatism, I think is what I'm going to refer to it as. It's that real, it's that same sort of energy that comes from the United States and what they're dealing with, all of their white supremacy and their, what's that last one? Christian nationalism. It's that whole, we don't want things to change, except we want them to change the way we want them to change to better reflect our very conservative values, ideas, and attitudes. But overall, Canada has an energy that is far more inclusive, that is far more open to a more progressive way forward. I mean, we're the country of, no concerns about abortion, it's legal. Recreational marijuana, no problem across the country. Assisted suicide, when it fits all the medical criteria, it can be done. And honestly, none of this stuff created massive, huge debates. It didn't tear the country apart. It was simply, this is the way we should go. This is progressive. This is what the people are asking for and wanting. Let's get it done. So the degree of push and pull and friction is not as extreme as you see in the United States, as an example. It looks as if overall, and listen, I am not trying to minimize Canada's problems. We've got them. We've got lots of them. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be worked on out here. We are not, the poster child for like wonderful countries. We have our issues. But overall, the energy of the country is really more about balance. It is about that temperance. So they're really extremes on either end. You're going to see them dissipating or kind of diminishing, okay, represented by the Eight of Cups here. So I think what you're going to see over the next couple of years is, as sort of those extreme ideas fail to really get hold, you're going to see again that sort of movement towards sort of a very middle of the road kind of balanced way forward. the emphasis is about growing the country. The emphasis is going to be about healing, the planet. It's going to be about increasing prosperity within the country. And this is kind of one of the crazy things, right? People can yell and scream all they want about how they want, sovereignty for Alberta or independence from the government or whatever it is. But the reality is those kinds of things tend to happen when those groups of people are feeling like their needs are not being met, they're not being taken into consideration. And it is a surprising thing how when you have people who are feeling far more prosperous and comfortable and secure and safe, that some of those grumblings and mumblings tend to dissipate. So it very much looks like what you're going to see as we move forward. Yes, there is going to be a push towards this sort of real conservative ideas, okay? It's not going to succeed, but it's going to give us a bit of a run for our money. So this is no time to sit back on our laurels and say, well, everything's going to be fine, so let's just not worry about it because it's going to ultimately be fine. It's only going to be fine if Canadians, like every other citizen in every other country, pays attention and make sure that we are not only politically involved, but energetically involved, okay? We too are going to be going through a period of, soul searching, a period of what do we want to represent? How do we want to be perceived by the rest of the world? But again, Canada has that sort of energy that is really more about a bringing together. And listen, I'm sure if you ask the Indigenous communities, the First Nations people, they're not going to agree wholeheartedly with that statement. It's not that we haven't made mistakes, and some of them are like really, really bad. But this is a time of soul searching for Canada, and possibly even because we see kind of all this crazy going on in other parts of the world and other countries, and it makes us sort of slow down and reflect a little bit and go, okay, wait a minute. We're starting to see indications of that path breaking ground here, and we're not really in support of it. Even the truck rallies and the freedom convoys and all of that, they did not have anywhere near the support that sometimes it felt like they had. There was not a huge percentage of Canadians who supported it. And those people still out there yelling and screaming about COVID, and how that was handled, and the government daring suggest that maybe, for the greater good, they should consider getting it vaccinated. Those people truly are in the minority, and they are the people and the energy and the attitudes that are losing ground. If, as Canadians, we become complacent and we sort of make the mistake, I'm sorry, US, but we sort of make the mistake that the United States made of, well, this is just how it's always been. This is what we consider the norm. Those guys are kind of crazy and we can ignore them. We're going to set ourselves up for a fall. If we can stay involved, make wise choices about who's representing us on all levels of government, stay involved in, how we want this country to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. We're going to be able to come through it. There's definitely, this Four of Swords is interesting sitting here because it's almost sort of talking about, I want to, and I hate to say this, I'm sorry, but it feels as if there's going to be a bit of a kind of COVID resurgence. And it's just feeling like fall, winter, but I have to tell you to not panic because there's enough people vaccinated in the country. You sort of have kind of that like herd immunity um, situation going here. But don't be surprised if there's a little bit of that sort of pulling back as we go into the colder months. It doesn't look like it's going to be severe. It doesn't look like it's going to um, sort of, take us back to where we were a couple of years ago. But it definitely feels like it's going to sort of slow, perhaps, some of the forward movement we have been making. But overall, so I guess what I'm saying is for those of you who are now eligible to get your second booster, or those who are waiting for the new booster that apparently is coming out in September, make sure as the weather gets cold that you have um, the immune protection that you need, okay? Okay. And just an interesting aside, as far as Alberta goes, I think part of the reason that first of all, it's going to be the second, the sort of the second place person who ends up being the winner in terms of the United Progressive Conservative Party, but it very much looks like Rachel Notley of the NDP is likely to return to power as Premier of Alberta as a result of the fall election, or whenever that election is coming up. I'm not sure when it is, to tell you the truth. There's always going to be people that are going to be unhappy. There's always going to be situations where people are going to feel like not enough is being done fast enough. But you know what? We're going to get there. It's going to be okay. So as far as Canada goes right now, it very definitely feels like we are sort of facing that overall sense of, okay, what energy is moving us forward? Is it the sort of more inclusive energy? Or is it more of the isolationist, let's all separate into our own corners. We don't need to take anybody else into consideration. That's where we're at right now. And I have a great deal of confidence in Canada to make the choices that truly are a reflection of our national ideas and attitudes, which really is about that sort of more inclusive feeling and energy. If there are any Canadian astrologers out there, it's so interesting that we got, there's been, I don't know, hundreds, I think, of US charts done and analysis is done. I'd be curious to know, I don't need a detailed one, but I'd be curious to know just sort of astrologically, if there's anything going on that is like really significant that maybe is not on our radar at this point. So if any of you are out there and want to take a quick peek, and let me know, that would be really cool. All right, let's take a look now at the United States and see how they're doing. As far as Trump goes, I have to tell you, the hits are going to keep on coming with him, boy, oh boy. It's not going to let up for him, and it's going to get worse as every day gets closer to the end of this year. As we move into 2023, he's going to actually have a really hard time of it. USA current trajectory, USA current trajectory, USA current trajectory. Sorry, I have a frog in my throat. Okay, so this is the thing. Because the United States has this foundation in money. Okay. So concerned about becoming a socialist country and having, health care or prescription prices that are not bankrupting people. Because it is all about commerce, the almighty buck, it's a very difficult sort of path to walk. Because what happens is that there then becomes this conflict between the people who have far too much and the people who do not have anywhere near enough. And it creates this sort of confusion, this sort of delusion. It's always, if you want it bad enough, you can have it in the United States. Dreams come true here. We are what is that? The shining city on the hill, or whatever that Reagan expression is. It's not a bad thing. But what it does do is it creates a sort of sense of enough is never enough. And the more that there is this push to have more and more and more, the more others are falling by the wayside, which is exactly the situation you have that's going on right now, right? The Republicans are screaming about anything that's going to increase taxes on the very people who really don't pay enough taxes and can afford to pay more taxes. And as soon as you start talking about things like Medicare for everybody, or help with school tuitions, or all of that kind of stuff, people start yelling and screaming, and it becomes this constant battering ram. And those very people who were protesting don't have any trouble landing their private jets at airports that are paid for by the federal government. They don't have any trouble taking advantage where there is advantage to be taken care of, and the other people continue to fall by the wayside. And that becomes the foundation for what has created the incredible kind of push and pull that's going on in the country right now. Because even though there's all this screaming about how you don't want to be a socialist country, when it comes right down to it, I think more and more you're going to see the United States sort of moving in that direction, because they're falling behind what is just frankly considered normal and expected in civilized industrial countries. The people should have Medicare. They should have coverage. They should anticipate that when it comes to big stuff, the federal government is going to step in. They should anticipate that there are rules set by the federal government, like things like, access to reproductive health care, the ability to marry who you love, okay? That those things should be overseen by the federal government. So what the United States is dealing with right now is sort of like, I almost want to use the word like an identity crisis. And the image they're showing me is sort of interesting, because it's the image of the kind of identity crisis that a child goes through as they are entering their teens. And then that other identity crisis that you kind of go to as you are leaving your teens and entering, 16, 17, entering the 18 to 20, 21 groupings. The country is growing. And what it's feeling right now are real growing pains, because the part of the country that is so driven by monetary concerns, by wealth, by the haves having more and more and more, is starting to really get pulled by the people who were saying, you know what, that's not good enough anymore. It's not good enough. We're tired of being marginalized. We're tired of our lives literally being used like, the pieces on a chessboard. And so what is happening in the United States, when you look at it from sort of a higher perspective, an energetic perspective, is that they are going through a significant growing pain. They too are struggling to find out who they want to be when they grow up, who they want to be, not as they would like to think the world sees them. Because however the world saw them, that image was significantly tarnished when Trump was elected. And even though Biden's presidency, which by the way is starting to make a bit of a comeback finally, even though that presidency does not seem to be sort of doing well, although he's getting a hell of a lot of work done, it's become more about recognizing that the world, the rest of the world, has kind of seen through the illusions, and they're now looking, I guess, with more of a slightly jaundiced eye at the United States, and they're saying, you need to start putting your money where your mouth is. Don't talk to us about whatever it is when you have these problems in your own country. And it's okay. That's a really, really good place to be, even though it may not feel like it right now. But ultimately, this cycle has got to come to a closure, because there really, really does need to be kind of a new beginning, a new way of looking at things. There needs to be a balancing. There needs to be more care, more compassionate energy given to those who are not in the top, never mind 1%, 10%. Okay? The bonus is that despite all of the crazy sort of tricks that politicians are known to play, the people of the United States are finding their way to a far more balanced or temperate position. We've talked about this before. It's like a pendulum. There are extremes on either end. Where the United States is sort of coming to is something that is a little bit more center. Okay, so conservatives are always going to be a little angry because the country isn't conservative enough. Progressives are always going to be a little angry because the country isn't progressing fast enough to suit them. But in the grand scheme of things, it will be that kind of blending the two extremes and kind of creating a progressive center that does not completely diminish or belittle those who are struggling to progress. But the really cool thing is that the United States has a great capacity to reinvent itself. It will have a great capacity to pull its resources together and really create a pathway going forward that is healing. Interesting that both countries got the devil, because that's kind of really where both countries are right now. In the United States, you are also fighting to push back against sort of, in some ways, the inherent evil that comes from too many people being too badly marginalized for so long. The middle class is sort of being diminished, and so the separation becomes even bigger. More people who were very comfortable living a middle class life are slipping into a lower economic situation, and too few of them have been able to move up. So you have a middle class, which is frankly the backbone of every country, that is really getting, beaten up a little bit. But there is great potential for a new beginning and a new growth and a going forward. The thing is, the more a country spends its wealth wisely and for the people of the country, the more wealthy the country becomes and the more stabilized the country becomes. And that is the direction that the United States is taking its baby steps towards getting. Okay? Listen, you guys have so much hope. There's a lot to be hopeful about. There's a lot to be confident about. But I think it boils down to exactly the same thing that I was saying earlier about Canada. It really is about staying engaged. It really is about becoming involved. It is about taking the highest and the best emotions, the best intentions, and setting those into motion so that the highest good for the country, the greatest vision for the country can be accomplished. And that greatest vision has to do with creating an environment where there is a sense of comfort and security and wealth for everyone. One way or another, you're moving forward. And again, you also were in that place of introspection and really, really figuring out what it is you want the country to look like as you go forward. But listen, you've got the hope, you've got the potential, got the skills and the ability. You can make this work. Okay. So that's what I know today. I hope you have found this insightful, perhaps comforting in some way. We are in a time of change. We are in a period of progressing to a higher dimension. That means the old must fall, it must crumble so that it can be reworked into something that is a closer reflection to not only the people of a country, but to the spirit of a country, to the energy of a country. And sometimes it's really hard to be part of that process where the things that have been safe for us, the things that we have counted on and depended on and trusted on, when those things start to feel like they're getting really shaky and they're breaking down. But we have to realize and always remember that we are about forward movement. We always have to be moving forward. And this is the time that we are destined to move forward. So let's all take comfort from that we get to be part of witnessing this incredible, incredible global journey forward into a much better energy and space and place. Until next time, take care and be well. We'll see you really soon. Bye-bye.